Dark Knight was fleeing, suddenly heard angry shouts from behind, turned back. In shock, and lost his voice. You. How did you catch up? How did I catch up, and what do I have to do with you? Suchanga didn't want to say so much to him, and directly punched him. Boom. The powerful force erupted, and the impact of the air exploded, like a terrifying wave rolling. Dark Knight's heart was shocked, and he hurriedly burst out of protective body. True chi, and in an instant a golden light mask covered his whole body. Bang! Suchanga's fist directly penetrated the light mask, and 40 million pounds of huge force slammed into him without reservation. Ugh! The Dark Knight let out a scream of extreme pain, and the chest that was beaten by this punch collapsed, the ribs were broken, blood splattered, and the liver sausage was broken. You. How can you be so powerful? What's the matter with you? Bang! Suchanga threw another punch, directly penetrating Dark Knight's chest, and the blood-stained fist stretched out from Dark Knight's back, and then withdrew it back. After pulling back, Dark Knight rolled his eyes, his face was full of shock and fear, and then he collapsed to the ground with a plop, screaming for his life. Suchanga flipped over on him and quickly felt out a spatial ring. When I opened the space ring, I saw that the space inside was extremely large. As much as a football field, and it was full of golden net worth. Suchanga didn't look closely, raised his hand and punched the Dark Knight. And then left here. In the clouds. Suchanga rode the cloud-stepping heavenly horse and took Su Lianyue on the way home. He took out the space ring, his face was full of red light, and he laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, the Dark Knight is really rich. He recognized Dark Knight, and the identity of this person on his face was a senior elder under Du Sihai, and the storage items on his body were different from ordinary people, but they were higher specification space rings. Suchanga opened the space ring, checked it for a while, and soon knew the wealth of the Dark Knight. A total of more than 200,000 spirit stones, including 100,000 top grade and 130,000 top grade, as well as countless pills and treasures, and dozens of yellow-level spirit soldiers. In addition, he also found some 100 refined iron in the space ring. This is a rare mineral iron, shining with gold and shining, which is an indispensable material for casting spirit soldiers. Suchanga put away the storage rings, and then began to check the storage bags in the King Kong Gate. However, the storage bag of the King Kong Gate is disappointing. In addition to finding some good quality elixirs in that damn elder storage bag, the others are some unruly herbs, as well as martial arts such as unpopular fists, which are Tiger Fist, Roaring Fist, Wind Fist. As for the herbs, they are all violet grass, blue grass. All of them are low grade herbs and are not worth a few bucks. If it was before, Suchanga might still look at it, but now, he can't see these things at all. Although these garbage are not worth much, they are still good to use to brush the system subsidies. Suchanga suddenly thought of something, and immediately prepared to stuff these garbage into Su Xianyue. But thinking about it, it seems a little inappropriate for me to do this. Because Mercy is not a trash can. So who should I give it to? He hesitated. There is too much garbage on the body, take up the backpack. It must be cleaned up quickly, only the good ones are left. After thinking for a while, he suddenly had an epiphany and thought of a good way. Let's go to the ground. He turned his horse's head and flew downwards. Soon, the hoofs of the stepping cloud Tianma fell to the ground, and Su Changxing waved his palm, and those garbage herbs were thrown on the ground at will. Later, he picked a few more mountains, entered the cave, and threw those Martial arts into the cave. Finally, go to a mountain and leave a few yellow-level weapons there. After all this, he lifted his feet and left, continuing to return towards the sect. This method is very simple: throw the stolen things directly on the road, or in the cave, and let the people of fortune pick them up. When those who are destined to pick up their hands on their side, won't the system directly subsidize back? This method, how trouble-saving. Regardless of whether those who are destined to earn or not, they will always earn in blood anyway. The stepping cloud heavenly horse was fast and flew towards the sect. He left about a few minutes later. On the road below, a teenager passed by. Originally, he didn't care, but when he saw so many herbs on the ground, his eyes lit up and he was overjoyed. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Wow, stepped on the shit lucky. The young man was ecstatic, put away the herbs, and left the place satisfied. Here, Suchanga was flying, and in his mind, the system subsidy suddenly arrived. Ding. You sent a violet grass, blue grass. Tens of billions of subsidies, take effect, triggering an excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 399,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Tianqin Selanger. 9 Shadow Ayrshire Heart Grass. Ice and Fire Grass. Sun Golden Genkeo. 3 turns Purple Gold Heavenly Grass. 10,000 years of ginseng. A series of subsidies looked at Suchanga's eyes, and he smiled, and his heart burst into flames. At the same time, a downtrodden young man came to the cave. He spent all the money on him and wanted to come to this place to settle down. But after stepping into the cave, he suddenly sensed something, and a fierce joy descended from the sky. He saw that there were several martial arts books under his feet, all of which were the fist techniques of the King Kong Gate. Although these boxing techniques are not of high grade, they can still be dashing when they take them to a pawnshop for a few bucks. Ha ha ha, pie in the sky. Oh yes. The excitement made him cheer. He picked up all these punches in one go, and then left the place happily. It was at the same time that he took away all these martial arts. In Suchanga's mind, the system voice sounded again. Ding. You sent Tiger Fist and Roaring Fist. Tens of billions of subsidies, take effect, triggering an excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 400,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining King Kong Fury God Fist. Mighty King Kong Fist. Buddha Lion Roar Gong. Gossip back to the palm of heaven. Punch the void. The sound of the system sounded non-stop in my mind, enough to subsidize dozens of exercises, and the quality was almost 1 by 1 compared to those lost before. This wave lies down. Suchanga patted his head. I have to say that I am really a genius. At this moment, a female monk flew with a sword and passed by the mountain where he had just lost his weapon. Originally, the female cultivator didn't care, but she inadvertently looked down and saw dozens of weapons on the top of the mountain exuding a sharp cold glow, and her cheeks were suddenly delighted. Happy going out? She descended the clouds, came to the top of the mountain, and picked up the weapon. In Suchanga's mind, the system subsidy arrived on time. Ding. You sent the yellow grade General Soldier, Iron Sword, the yellow grade General Soldier, Bronze Short Sword. Tens of billions of subsidies, take effect, triggering an excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 400,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Heaven Level Spirit Soldier, Green Dragon Sword. Heaven Level Spirit Soldier, U Dragon Sword. Heaven Level Spirit Soldier, Tai Sword. Heaven Level Spirit Soldier, / Demon Weeping Blood Sword. In just a few moments, Suchanga's heritage grew geometrically. He only glanced at these things in a hurry, and then continued on his way. The reason is simple. This time, the treasures subsidized by the system are too many. Let's not talk about anything else, just weapons. Each weapon is good, the treasure is shining, the long edge is sharp, extremely sharp. If he looked at them one by one now, it would be too time-consuming. So he plans to wait until he goes back and watch slowly. Phew! Stepping on the clouds, Tianma stepped on the white clouds and flew swiftly in the air. Along the way, Su Lianyue firmly grabbed Suchanga's arm, for fear of losing him. In fact, when the Vedra Gate Elder fought to the death just now, she was shocked, for fear that Gongzi would be defenseless, and then she would be. And the next moment, seeing Gongzi flying out the vomit blood that the elder beat with a palm, she immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Gongzi, whispered Su Xianyue, feeling extremely happy in her heart. Did he save the galaxy in his last life, and he met a son who was so good to him? Suchanga heard her calling herself, turned her head, gave her a smile, and said, "Sit tight, it's time to speed up." Saying that, his fingertips lightly tapped Tianma's head. Tianma is human, and the speed immediately increases several times, and it shuttles quickly in the air, like a gallop. Su Lianyue firmly grabbed Suchanga's arm and did not let go for a moment. After some time, the two successfully returned to the sect. Enter the house. Suchanga is ready to brush the system subsidy again. This time it was to give spirit stones. You know, just now you have obtained so many spirit stones, if you give them away, wouldn't it be rich again? Just do it. He immediately opened the storage bag, gathered all the snatched spirit stones in one place, and then prepared to give it to Su Xianyue. Just when he was about to hand it to Su Lianyue, his brows suddenly frowned. Chier's breath can increase cultivation, so what is the use of spirit stones? As we all know, spirit stones contain a large amount of spiritual energy, and absorption can increase cultivation. But Su Lianyue not only breathed to increase cultivation, but also increased drinking water and increased sleep. Then what else do you want the spirit stone for? Isn't this a waste? Suchanga thought for a moment and quickly made a decision. Then don't give mercy, give it to the beautiful master. I'll go out first and come back right away. He left a word and went to Yi Qingyao's residence. Gongzi. Su Lianyue watched him walk out, feeling empty in her heart, and a feeling of being alone in an empty room arose in her heart. On the other side, Suchanga soon arrived in front of Yi Qingyao's door. Pushed the door in, but found that Yi Qingyao was not there. There was no figure of her in the courtyard. Suchanga thought about it a little, felt that it should be in the house, and immediately sensed it. But I found that there was no breath fluctuation in the room. Obviously, she wasn't there. Where did Master go? He wondered to himself. But don't really care. If the beautiful Master is not there, then put the spirit stone here, and when she returns, she will naturally see it. It happened that there was a table next to the pool where goldfish were raised, and Suchanga took out a large amount of spirit stones and placed them on the table. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. There was no one else in Luofeng, so he was not worried about being picked up by others. After doing all this, Suchanga lifted his foot and left. As soon as he left on the front foot, Yi Qingyao came back on the back foot. She just went to the main peak. The reason was that today Lin Invincible summoned all the high-level sect leaders to discuss the ultimate reward of the tournament, and she, the peak master, naturally wanted to go. After deliberating for a day, in the end, all the high-level officials unanimously suggested that whoever won the position of the Holy Sun would be rewarded with a secret technique. That secret art is the Tai Xian secret technique - Immortal Venerable Testament. This is the supreme secret method that is not passed down from the sect, and once it is cultivated, it will transform into an innate holy body, Tao fetus. Lin Invincible had intended to reward this secret art to the peerless Tianjiao, who had opened up 18 cave heavens, and when he heard the high-level people say this, he agreed without hesitation. During the day's discussion, Yi Qingyao was touching the fish the whole time, because she felt that the apprentice was just going to participate, firstly, for the face of Luofeng, so as not to really become a transparent peak. The second is that there are also participation awards. Although the participation award is not particularly good, it is enough to be happy for a while. Right now, she was thinking about this, when she suddenly noticed a large pile of shining spirit stones on the table. This is. Yi Qingyao's heart moved, and she hurriedly walked over. Looking down, I saw that these spirit stones were all top-grade spirit stones, with rich spiritual energy, crystal clear, and did not contain a trace of impurities. Not only that, but there are also a large number of superb spirit stones. Roughly counted, the extreme spirit stones alone, it is enough to 100,000 pieces. Oh my God! She trembled with excitement all of a sudden, not understanding how the spirit stone fell from the sky. Could it be that he did something good and dropped spirit stones from the sky? Suddenly, her mind flashed and she thought of Suchanga. No, it should have been sent by an apprentice. The apprentice has repeatedly sent things to himself, then this spirit stone is naturally also sent by him. He should have seen that I was not there, so he put the spirit stone here and waited for me to come back and get it. She was elated, her beautiful eyes radiated with light, and she held the spirit stone in her arms, and her white and crystal beautiful face was full of joy. In the cottage. In Suchanga's mind, the system's tens of billions of subsidies have arrived. Fiercely. Ding. You sent 200,000 top-grade spirit stones and 100,000 top-grade spirit stones. And the tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggering an excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 409,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 980000000000000. Shangping Spirit Stone 4900000000000. Superb Spirit Stones. Because the number was too large, the zero behind almost made Suchanga look dazzled. He didn't look at it carefully, because the 10 billion times of 200,000 and 100,000, multiplied by the multiple of 409,000, was undoubtedly a terrifying number. Ha ha ha, I have to say, this kind of fanny pack feels so good. I feel like I walk with the wind. Suchanga was excited. The fanny pack is bulging, and I have the confidence to speak and walk. Immediately, he withdrew his attention from the spirit stone and began to delve into the water-repelling sword. He knocked on the sword, and there was a dull sound of bells inside the giant sword. This means that the inside of the water-repelling sword is empty. Gongzi, what are you doing? Is there any secret with this sword? On the side, Su Xianyua's eyes showed doubt. She didn't think that such an ordinary sword had any secrets. Mercy, There is a big secret here. Watch it. Su Chang'e used his strength and smashed a punch on the water-repelling sword. Bang! The water-repelling sword explodes. In an instant, a dazzling silver light was revealed, and a sharp cold light rushed to the face. This is. The moment the water-repelling sword exploded, Su Lianyue's pupils suddenly contracted, revealing a deep incredulity. Look around. I saw that among the giant swords, there was still a sword hidden. The sword was 2 feet and 1 inch long, the body of the sword was poured from Xian iron, thin and sharp, shining with a piercing cold light. The hilt was a silver-white dragon carved pattern, which looked extremely majestic. The blade was extremely sharp, and the blade was like autumn frost. With a bang, Su Chang'e unsheathed his sword, and the cold light of the sword blade sprayed out in a flash, and the air exploded, as if it was sealed by a sword. He walked out and began to practice the heavenly star fighting sword that he had cultivated before. I saw him standing under the tree, a sword stabbed out. The sword was like a silver snake flying, hunting and breaking the wind, and like a swimming dragon, shuttling, sweeping the 4 bodies, sometimes light as a swallow, pointing the sword up, sometimes suddenly like lightning, falling leaves, and collapsing, like a silver light rising in the hand, majestic sweeping thousands of troops. Wow, Gongzi is so good. Su Xianyue looked a little foolish. Her eyes are now full of Su Chang'e, and her mind is full of his figure. Su Chang'e is the pillar of her life and occupies a huge part of her heart. It was the whole of her life. Sting. Suddenly, Su Chang'e turned his stab into a slash, looked at a mountain thousands of miles away from the sect, and slashed out with a sword. I saw a white sword light fall like a horse, falling straight on that mountain, and the mountain rumbled and was cut in half. Endless rubble crackled and fell, splashing billowing smoke. Su Lianyue's eyes shone brightly, shining brightly, and said joyfully, Gongzi, you are too powerful. She could see that that sword was so strong that it should be a peerless sword of extremely high grade. Su Chang'e smiled faintly, collected his sword and stood calmly. He seems calm, but in fact, his heart is already tumbling. The sword just now, he just swung it casually, and he didn't even have a single point of strength. But it was this weak power, combined with the heavenly sword, that directly split a mountain with one sword. This power, the cow is big. It is worthy of being a heaven-level spirit soldier, and it is really strong. Su Chang'e was smiling. Such a powerful sword, if it is taken away by Hu Han, the severity of the consequences can be imagined. But now, I was cut off by myself. I have to say that the opportunity to rob Hu Han is really cool. Just when Su Chang'e was happy to obtain the heavenly sword. Tiantai Peak, Cultivation Tower. Hu Han went on a rampage inside, beating demon beasts wildly, and cultivating desperately. The younger brother was killed, and the murderer could not be found. He was extremely angry, and he had no choice but to vent all his anger on these monster beasts. Bang! Boom! Boom! The demon beast in the tower was shattered by the skull he beat and was covered in blood. But he was still tireless and desperately bombarded. Suddenly, at a certain moment, his heart suddenly became empty, as if something had left him, making his mood even worse. Fuck, I'll kill you. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. He didn't know where this feeling came from, but he was even more angry. Jumped violently, and vented all his anger on the demon beast. Boom! The demon beast was blossomed by his fist-slammed head, and it fell into pieces. Even so, Hu Han's anger could not be extinguished. The other side. After Su Chang'e finished testing the power of the heavenly sword, he pulled Su Lianyue and walked into the room. He closed the door, put the sword into the scabbard, and then held up Su Lianyue's white jade hand and said, "Lier, do you know what level of weapon this sword is?" Su Xianyue expected it, but she couldn't say it. Su Chang'e smiled lightly. "This is a heaven-level spirit soldier, relying on the heavenly sword." "What? Heaven-level spirit soldier?" Su Xianyue's heart trembled, and her eyes widened sharply. This turned out to be. Is it a heaven-level spirit soldier? No wonder Gongzi wanted to buy that giant sword, it turned out. Just thinking. Su Chang'e suddenly said, "Mercy, this sword is given to you, take it." Huh? Su Xianyue's heart jumped violently, and she felt extremely unbelievable. This is a heaven-level spirit soldier, Gongzi actually wants to give it to himself? You're not dreaming, are you? This. Gongzi, this sword is so precious, why don't you keep it for yourself? But send it to me, shocked. Words came out of her mouth. Su Chang'e smiled, directly put the sword into her hand, and said affectionately, "Mercy, you were bullied before, because you didn't have a terrifying defensive weapon on your body. If you had, you could immediately split them in half. I think this sword is good. If you carry it with you, you can use it for self-defense in case of danger in the future. No need to say more, take it." As soon as the words fell, Su Xianyue was moved to tears. Gongzi is so good, everything starts with his own safety. Having a son in this life is enough. In this life, I will live for my son. She was deeply moved in her heart, secretly determined, and then no longer shirked, and took the sword. When her palm touched the Yitian sword, her wrist trembled slightly. Such a terrifying sword, I didn't dare to think about it before, but now. Gongzi said that he would send it, this kindness. No reward. She suddenly had a flash of light in her mind and remembered something. When I met Gongzi before, it was in the Huang family of Skyhawk City. At that time, Gongzi strongly subdued the young master of the Huang family. And the young master of the Huang family changed his face greatly. What did he say? The words of that time sounded in my mind, brother, and slow. If you like this handmaid, then give it to you. She clearly remembered what the young master of the Huang family said. Thinking of this, she looked down at the heavenly sword in her hand, and her cheek suddenly blushed, like a red rose blooming on her face. Xian was red. Beautiful. No wonder Gongzi is so good to himself, giving himself a place to live, providing himself with food and clothing, and always sending himself treasures. 5 times and again, it turns out that she was thinking about it here, but Su Chang'e didn't care how she was, but focused on the system. Such a terrifying heaven-level spirit soldier as the heavenly sword has been given away, so the system's subsidy must be stronger, right? P.S. Today is updated very early, updated at 7 o'clock, got up early. Tomorrow should still be this time. Every day I am stable update, in addition to grand thanks to Lonely City Cold Rain, everyday rain or shine support. Thank you. At this moment, Su Chang'e suddenly thought of something in his heart, and his face suddenly became cold. When Du Sihai learned that the Dark Knight was gone, he would definitely make a quick move and send someone to kill him again. And the people sent are definitely stronger than the Dark Knight. But how can I be afraid? Su Chang'e was full of pride in his heart, laughed loudly, and was arrogant. Even if the people sent by Du Sihai are strong, what? The system's subsidy will arrive immediately, and I am afraid that he will not succeed? This thought just flashed in my mind, and the system subsidy arrived sharply. Ding. You sent a heaven-level spirit soldier, relying on the heavenly sword. Tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggering an excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 406,500 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Big Dipper 7-star sword. Big Dipper 7-star sword? Suchonga's heart moved. Intuition told him that this sword must be extraordinary. Can it be named after the Big Dipper? Is it a mortal sword? The next moment, the system sound sounded. Big Dipper 7-star sword, heaven-level divine weapon. The sword body is engraved with the pattern of the Big Dipper. When wielded, it can burst out of destructive power. In ancient times, there were strong people who used this sword, a sword to cut off the head of the immortal king. What? Heavens! Heaven-level divine weapon? Suchonga's eyebrows jumped, overjoyed. I really didn't expect that this time it crossed a large level and compensated for the return of the divine weapon. He has a firm memory of the grade of the weapon. The lowest is the general soldier, followed by the spirit soldier, and then the divine soldier, the holy soldier, the imperial soldier. And now, give a spirit weapon, and the system directly compensates back the divine weapon. This wave just blood earned. He took a deep breath, suppressed the excitement in his heart, and looked at the system space. I saw that in that space comparable to chaos, a 3-foot-long sword emitted brilliant light, with golden mysterious patterns circulating, and an ancient and barbaric aura attached to it, giving people a feeling of being extremely sharp, vast, and ancient. Suddenly, on the Big Dipper 7-star sword, a cloud of silver brilliance bloomed out. Like a silver dragon out of its sheath, noble and clear, the carvings on the hilt of the sword were like stars running, shining with deep and dazzling light. The Big Dipper patterns on the sword body lit up one by one, reflecting each other, and the sword body was seamlessly integrated, and the sword blade was like a cliff standing on 1,000 walls, majestic and majestic. Noble, sharp, elegant, like the sword of the Lord. Ha ha ha, this wave is no longer earned in blood, but earned. Suchonga looked at this sword from afar, and his heart was so cool that he was numb. Cut off Huhan's chance, not only suppressed Huhan, but also once again reaped the goodwill of the reincarnation of the saint, and got the super sword. Kill 3 birds with 1 stone, it's a blast. When he was happy, he was also thinking about his current combat strength. Originally, there was a huge force of 4 million caddies, but now superimposed on the heaven-level divine weapon, and then superimposed on the heavenly star fighting sword method. How strong should this sword be when it is stabbed? The comprehensive strength has risen sharply, belonging to yes. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2AA54Z8B. Tiantai. Peak. Phew. A black-cloaked figure came from the Hall of Soul Lamps, looking panicked, and came to the Hall of Discussion. Lord, in the dark of the night he. What's wrong with him? He. Killed. As soon as the words fell, Du Sihai was shocked in his heart, jumped up from the chair violently, and jumped violently. Impossible. Dark night is 100 times stronger than sword madness, and sword madness, how can it be? Killed. The dead man's heart was actually unbelievable, and said in a deep voice, Lord, the soul lamp has been extinguished, and the dark night is definitely dead. Du Sihai jumped angrily, slapped the table angrily, and the table made of steel fell apart on the spot, exploding into iron powder. Abominable. Damn it. What the hell is going on with this bastard? Why did the people sent fall one after another? What the hell is going on? Du Sihai's lungs are about to explode. Before Hu Yuankong's death, Hu Han came to him every day to cry, asking him to find out the murderer, but he couldn't find out at all, and he couldn't give Hu Han an explanation. Hu Han was dissatisfied and left angrily. The disciple's own brother was killed, and he, the master and venerable, couldn't even check who the murderer was, so he was ashamed of the disciple. Lord, in my humble opinion, Yi Qingyao should reward that kid with some life saving protective treasures, such as dark weapons and other things, so that he can do unexpected killing. It is better for us to send a dead man with a strong body over, even if he is good at using the dark weapon, he can't break the killer's defense. The dead man suggested at this time. Du Sihai thought for a moment and felt that this was the case. That Su Chang'e has no cultivation, so he can only use a dark weapon. And Yi Qingyao wanted to let him participate in the tournament anyway, that should be to prepare a lot of dark weapons for him. No wonder. Du Sihai suddenly understood a lot. Suddenly, his heart moved, and he asked the dead man, "Have you forgotten the law enforcement hall? With the hall of law enforcement here, how do we start this time?" The dead man showed a sinister smile and said confidently, "Lord, money can pass through ghosts and gods. You sent her a large amount of money, it should be able to solve it." The controller of the law enforcement hall is an old woman named Bingyu, who loves treasures and money the most. Du Sihai's eyes lit up and said, "Okay, just do as you say." Whoosh. Not long after, Tiantai Peak sent a high-ranking person to the law enforcement hall and sent a huge golden treasure chest. Soon, the law enforcement hall also sent a high-level to Tiantai Peak. This high-ranking man came to Du Sihai and laughed in a low voice, "Lord Du Feng's wishes, our peak lord has received it, and from now on, the back door of the law enforcement hall will be open for you." Du Sihai hugged his fist and said, "Thank you, Du." The high level of the law enforcement hall left. After he left, Du Sihai waved his hand to the side. A burly man walked out. He is 2 meters tall, with a strong physique, huge muscles, and pectoral muscles like a hill. This person's name is Shirley. He is a strange man found by chance when Du Sihai went out to travel, with a bolder bloodline, once ruthless. The flesh and blood on his body will turn into hard stones, and the strength of his flesh is extremely fierce. Raise soldiers for 1,000 days, use troops for a while, this time you go. Du Sihai said ruthlessly. Whoosh. Shirley stepped through the sky. Night, silence. A round of crescent moon hangs high in the void, exuding miserable white moonlight, revealing sadness. In the air, there was a faint solemn atmosphere, which seemed to suggest that this was an uneven night. Yua Peak, in the cottage. Su Chang'e looked at the Big Dipper 7-star sword in his hand, and his heart was happy. The heavenly sword has already cut the mountain peak like mud, then this Big Dipper 7-star sword must be even more terrifying. Buzz. At this moment, the air fluctuated, and 10 burly figures emerged, standing in the void. Their eyes swept over Lihua Peak, and their eyes flashed with pity. They are not bystanders, they are the members of the law enforcement temple. Bingyu has already given them an order that if something happens, as long as it can be suppressed, it will be pressed down, and it is not allowed to be reported. Whoever dares to report it, die. A moment later, the people of the law enforcement hall left one after another and went to inspect other places. And the next moment after they left, a tall figure came from Tiantai Peak, stepping through the sky and running in The darkness. Along the way, the air was trampled out of the visible cyclone, rumbling. But in an instant, Shirley set foot on Lihua Peak. He was very clever, did not break in from the front mountain of Luofing, but climbed up the cliff from the back mountain, groped in the dark, and soon arrived at Su Chang's residence. In this way, he successfully avoided Yi Qingyao's yard. Yi Qingyao's residence is the most conspicuous place of Lihua Peak, and it is also the closest place to other peaks. As for Su Chang'e, it was not far from the back mountain Qingtan. Shirley climbed all the way up the rock, came here, and said, "Open." Suddenly, his skin suddenly changed color and turned gray. His skin was like a stone, and the biceps on it were huge. And his whole person also grew 2 meters taller, looking like a giant. The boulder bloodline erupted. At this moment, his whole person changed, like a person made of stone, burly and tall and majestic. He came directly to Su Chang'e's door and kicked it. Bang! With a loud bang, the gate exploded and became shattered. Su Lianyue was sleeping, suddenly heard this explosion. Her face changed, when she saw a tall and majestic figure in the darkness coming. She hurriedly looked at Su Chang'e beside her. This tall figure is much higher than her cultivation. Boy, the Lord wants your life, go and die. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Shirley threw out a punch. His fist was as strong as a dragon, and it exploded into a rolling hurricane and blasted towards Su Chang'e. Sensing the power of this punch, Su Chang'e's face remained unchanged, and he met it with an unhurried punch. Bang! In an instant, the two fists collided, and there was an explosion in the air, instantly stirring up 1,000 layers of wind and waves, and the floor under his feet exploded on the spot, and was shaken to pieces by the powerful force. Poof! After a move, Shirley spat out a mouthful of blood, directly crashed through the window, and flew out upside down. His fist, even his entire arm, was shattered, and his flesh and blood were blurry, and he couldn't see the original appearance. Shirley suddenly understood something. His pupils contracted violently, and he said in shock, how can your physical body be stronger than me?" But that's all he said. Su Chang'e had already emerged from behind him, and the Big Dipper 7-star sword in his hand had been unsheathed and placed on his neck. Poof! The Big Dipper 7-star sword is extremely sharp, just a slight wave instantly cut his neck abruptly. Shirley's neck violently emitted a click. Bone brittle sound, was cut by this sword layer by layer burst, bone stubble splashed, mixed with blood, the neck was cut off alive, blood flowed. Just a moment. Shirley's head was cut off, his body became a headless corpse, and he didn't move after convulsing twice. The Big Dipper 7-star sword sharpened bones like paper. Gongzi. Su Xianyue smiled like a flower. "You are so powerful." Su Chang'e put away the sword and groped on him for a while, but in the end he didn't touch anything. There was nothing on Shirley. Seeing this, Su Chang'e didn't care. Immediately, he punched Shirley, and then immediately began to absorb spirit stones, preparing to fight back. What do you say?" Shirley's soul lamp was also extinguished? Tiantai. Peak, Du Sihai looked at the dead man in front of him, his face solemn. "The news has come back." "Yes, it's brutal." The dead man trembled slightly. Du Sihai's face was very solemn. He clenched his fists, his bones and joints clicking. After a while, he shouted to the side, "Long Yi, you must be out of the horse." Buzz. The space rippled, and a figure wearing bronze armor emerged, and an astonishing momentum erupted from his body, and the armor rattled. Long E, the most famous assassination under Du Sihai, once single-handedly destroyed a not weak sect. Whoosh! The space rippled, and as soon as the dragon walked in, he merged with the space and disappeared. A peak, cottage. Boom. 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 A burst of breakthrough sound sounded. Driven by hundreds of millions of massive spirit stones, Suchanga's cultivation skyrocketed, instantly breaking through his limits. Heaven and man realm, broken. We'll see realm. A heavy heaven in the We'll see realm. We'll see realm duo heaven. The 4 heavens of the We'll see realm. We'll see realm 6 heavens. 8 heavens of the We'll see realm. 9 heavens of the We'll see realm. The higher the cultivation, the more spirit stones are needed. 3 billion spirit stones pushed Suchanga's cultivation straight line to the 9 heavens of the We'll see realm. At this moment, Suchanga could clearly feel that the huge force in his body was tumbling, and the power was like a wave, full and calm as a mountain. As he broke through the 9 realms, his physical strength also broke through the limit, skyrocketing to a terrifying 5 million caddies. Click! Suchanga pinched his neck, and his joints suddenly erupted with a terrifying crisp sound. He was about to continue absorbing, but at this moment, Su Lianyue beside him sensed something and said, "Gongzi, it seems that someone is coming again." Suchanga glanced outside and sneered, "It's really a rush to reincarnate." Then one. He walked straight out. As soon as I went out, I immediately saw ripples in the space in front of me, like ripples on the surface of the water. The next moment, a figure dressed in bronze, heavy armor appeared, holding a war halberd in his hand, and the tip of the halberd glowed with a piercing, cold light. As soon as he saw Suchanga, he immediately roared as if he had seen an enemy. "Little cub, eat my halberd." The halberd erupted into a scarlet cold light, stirring up a hurricane and stabbing towards Suchanga. Suchanga's face remained unchanged, and as soon as his heart moved, the big Dipper 7-star sword suddenly appeared in his hand, slashed his arm, and attacked it. Click! Sting, la. The 2 weapons slashed together fiercely, and suddenly burst out dazzling gold and iron sparks, splashing around. "You boy." Wrong. Longy was shocked. At the moment when the halberd pierced the sword, he thought that he could pierce it like a decay, but he did not expect that the strength in the opponent's body was full of mountains, very calm and heavy, giving him a feeling of tenacity, and this sword was also extremely terrifying. He couldn't shake it at all. How did he know that this was a heaven-level divine weapon? Sting. Suchanga cast the heavenly star fighting sword technique, slashed out with a sword, and slashed fiercely on the battle halberd. One sword. Just a sword. The halberd suddenly sounded the sound of gold and iron breaking with thorns and pulling, and the Martian seed splashed all over, and one of them was cut in 2. What? Longyu was shocked, expected something, and exclaimed, You guy. Hide deeply. You know too late. Suchanga ran the shadow ghost step at the beginning, and the figure appeared directly behind him, and then a sword cut out. Ugh. The sword light slashed. A head flew up. Blood rained down all over the sky. Then, Ryuichi's body fell heavily to the ground, silent. Killing someone, Suchanga quickly groped on him for a while, this time successfully searched for a spatial ring, and then burst him with a punch, destroying the corpse. This Ryuichi, he didn't know. Never seen it. But he also vaguely guessed that it was definitely a strange man from where Du Sihai found. Immediately, he washed the scene, and then returned to the house and quickly cultivated. Almost at the same time as the dragon fell, Du Sihai learned the news. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. He was standing in the Hall of Soul Lamps at this time. This is to be the first to know the news. When he saw that Long Yi's soul lamp was out less than a moment after he went out, he immediately went out, and his mouth suddenly opened wide and he was stunned. What? Long Yi is so strong, how can he fall? Du Sihai let out a burst of exclamations. Unbelievable. Incredible. Can't believe it's true at all. You must know that Long Yi is so powerful, it is not a hand to kill a little transparent who has no cultivation? But he fell. It's unbelievable, it's really weird. Why are the people sent by people all falling one after another? Is there any strong person around that kid who can't protect it? Du Sihai's angry roar resounded throughout the Soul Lantern Hall. Next to him, a dead man said in a deep voice, Lord, I said before that Luofeng does not seem to be as wasteful as it seems, there should really be masters hiding inside, crouching tiger, hidden dragon. According to the subordinates, the people we sent during this time should all be killed by that hidden master. Otherwise, how many lives would have died on the basis of that kid himself? Du Sihai was in an irritable mood, and he only felt a large breath of anger in his chest, unable to spit it out. If this anger is held for a long time, it may be forged into a heart demon, which will affect future cultivation. He shouted angrily, then what do you say to do? The dead man fell silent, helpless. Late night for more. A black cloud floated in, obscuring the moonlight, and became invisible in all directions. Pear blossom peak, falling leaves without wind automatically, rustling sound. A black shadow is like a dragonfly in water, and where it passes, trees sway and leaves fly. If you look closely, you will find that where this black shadow passes, all the fallen leaves are cut by the sharp sword intent, flying like snowflakes. And even the ground has been cut into a sword mark that does not reach the knee. This black shadow wears a cloak, only revealing a pair of eyes outside, agile and silently sneaking in. Ryuji, Ryuichi's twin brother. Sensing that his brother had been killed, he became furious and immediately killed him spontaneously. In the cottage. Boom. 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 In the silent night, there was a dull breakthrough sound that exploded one after another, and one shackle after another was broken, and then, a powerful aura was released, sweeping in all directions. Suchanga frantically absorbed spirit stones, his cultivation skyrocketed. And soon he broke through his own limits and stepped into a whole new realm. Yuanfu realm. After the Will See realm, it is the Yuanfu realm. Boom. Yuanfu realm is a heavy heaven. Yuanfu realm triple heaven. Yuanfu realm 5 heavens. Yuanfu realm 7 heavens. Yuanfu realm 8 heavens. Yuanfu realm 9 heavens. Under the impetus of hundreds of millions of spirit stones, Suchanga's cultivation once again broke through a great realm and came to the 9 heavens of the Yuan mansion. He felt that the power in his body had skyrocketed, hundreds of times more terrifying than the Will See realm just now, and his strength was more calm, like an unfathomable deep sea. Boom. He suddenly punched out, and the air shook, as if it was struck by lightning. And there was a piercing roaring explosion. This punch has 6 million caddies of strength. Phew. Suchanga exhaled a turbid breath, and amazing momentum burst out from his body, and the surrounding air was instantly resounded by the impact of hunting, like a stone smashed into the water, making the horizontal surface ripple. P.S. Thank you, non-smoke, for your support every day. Thank you. In this world, the most lacking thing for all cultivators is spirit stones. But Suchanga is the most lacking. As long as he gives away a little spirit stone, he will get a lot of spirit stones. Therefore, after Xiao Wei broke through to the Yuanfu realm, his cultivation was still skyrocketing, and he couldn't stop at all. Boom. The hundreds of millions of spirit stones are gone again. If he let others know that he absorbed hundreds of millions of spirit stones at once, I am afraid that he would not be shocked by the 5 bodies. The highest amount of money for others in a month is 1 million, and he absorbs hundreds of millions at a time. There is no comparison at all. Breakthrough. Crazy breakthrough. Yuanfu realm, broken. Dao Palace realm is a heavy heaven. Dao Palace realm, triple heaven. Dao Palace realm, 5 heavens. Dao Palace realm, 7th heaven. Dao Palace realm, 9 heavens. Cultivation soared, the water rose, and the strength also skyrocketed to a terrifying 8 million caddies. Suchanga felt that he was full of strength, his face was flushed, and he shouted, "Cool." At this moment, he suddenly sensed that an aura was approaching, as if a beast in the dark night showed its fangs. The Dao Palace realm powerhouse, not only the strength skyrocketed, but also the perception skyrocketed, and it was very simple to sense the enemy's attack. Suchanga felt at the moment as if he was wearing a night vision device. Although Ryuji hid his own aura and lurked in silently, he couldn't escape his perception at all. Ugh. His figure moved, and he appeared directly in the shadows outside the hut. Looking up, on the tree not far away, there was a dark shadow lurking there. Black Shadow is not burly, very short, but very refined, and at a glance, you can tell that he is a well-trained killer. Huh? Ryuji stared at the hut from a distance, and was about to enter it, but at a certain moment he sensed the strong wind in front of him, and before he could come to his senses, he found a sword hanging around his neck. Yuanfu realm, master? Suchanga emerged from his shadow, and a sneer flashed on his face. Ryuji was shocked. What happened? Why did the other party already come out? Could it be that his whereabouts have been discovered? His brain was racing rapidly, and suddenly his toes moved, and a dark arrow shot out of his boot, reaching Suchanga's face. Bang! Suchanga smashed the dark arrow with one punch. Do you know what it means to break all laws with one force? Just this kind of carving insect trick. Still want to kill me? Suchanga sneered. I'm sorry, you were fooled. Long Air is not a vegetarian. Just now it was just a false move. Taking advantage of Suchanga's empty smashing of the dark arrow, he had already broken free from the sword on his neck, and with a bang, he distanced himself from Suchanga. A distance of 10 meters. At this distance, he felt very safe. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2AA54Z8B. Ugh. A short knife in the dragon's second hand came out of its sheath, glowing with a sharp cold. This is a short knife specially used for assassination. The blade is extremely sharp. It is clearly the dark night where 5 fingers are not visible, but because of this short knife, the surrounding area is illuminated. Ryuji's face was also reflected in a miserable white, like a ghost. Eat me! He shouted. His figure moved, like a black shadow, and he flashed directly over, and the sharp blade went straight to Suchanga's door. Suchanga raised his hand and slapped it, and the physical strength instantly caused a hurricane, sweeping in all directions in an instant. There was a crackling explosion in the space, like thunder, and this palm was pumped straight on Ryuji's face. Poof. Ryuji spewed out a mouthful of blood on the spot, as if hit on the face by a mountain. The bridge of the nose was directly collapsed by the fan, the eyeballs were fanned off, and the blood and flesh on the face were blurry. Extremely miserable. And that short knife was also splashed by a slap of Mars, and exploded into a ball of iron powder. He looked at Suchunga in shock, and a fear arose in his heart, and set in. Horror, you are not a little transparent, you are, master. Bang. Suchunga raised his hand and slapped it again. This palm did not have any left hands, and 8 million gene of strength exploded out. Click. Ryuji ate this palm firmly, his head instantly turned in countless circles. His neck made a crackling bone dislocation sound, and his head fell off his neck abruptly, and the corpse was on the spot. Suchunga fumbled on him for a while, successfully found the storage bag, and then punched him out, calling, "Mercy, come out and wash the floor." He still has business to do, and the job of washing the floor will be handed over to Su Xianyue. Su Lianyue came out of the room when she heard the sound, and her eyes were full of worship when she looked at Suchunga. She went to Qingtan to fetch some water and began to wash the ground. Suchunga re-entered the hut and quickly cultivated Tiantai. Peak, Hall of Soul Lamps. Du Sihai's eyes stared at the soul lamp here in case it changed. Suddenly. Bang. A light in front of him, was directly extinguished. It was as if it had been blown out by a gust of wind, merciless, crisp, and neat. That's Ryuji. What? I'll fuck it. Du Sihai's face changed, and he jumped instantly. The angry roar instantly attracted a group of dead soldiers to suppress the black pressure. These dead men were all dressed in bronze armor, and their bodies were swept with amazing momentum fluctuations. Lord, the facts have verified my conjecture, that Luofeng is definitely crouching tiger, hidden dragon, even a killer cultivated since childhood such. As Long Air stepped in, and fell one after another. A dead man said in a deep voice. Even if Du Sihai didn't believe it at this time, he finally believed it and said, "Okay. All right. I said how Yi Qingyao is so confident, it turns out that we all misread Luofeng. Luofeng is really a crouching tiger, hidden dragon, and is an unbroken ruthless character." He was furious, full of anger and nowhere to vent, snapped and slapped the table to pieces. In the cabin, there was silence in the silent night, only the sound of breakthrough sounded. Boom. 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 The continuous explosions were like rolling thunder, shaking the heart. Suchunga's cultivation sprang up like mushrooms, rubbing skyrocketing, and the cultivation shackles in his body collapsed one after another under the impact of the powerful spiritual power of hundreds of millions of spirit stones, and were forcibly broken. Cultivation is once again stepping into a whole new realm. Cave Void. After the Tao Palace realm, it is the Cave Void realm. This realm is enough to move mountains and reclaim the sea, and it is as strong as ever. Many cultivators spend their entire lives, and because of talent, qualifications and other reasons, they simply cannot reach this level. But Suchunga is a scaleless body, with infinite potential. The upper limit is almost no upper limit, and he will soon reach this cultivation. Boom. Breakthrough. Cave Void Realm is a heavy heaven. Cave Void Realm triple heaven. Cave Void Realm 5 heavens. Cave Void Realm 7 heavens. Cave Void Realm 9 heavens. Until breaking through to this point, Suchunga slowly exhaled a turbid breath, only felt that his ears were clear, a little wisdom overflowed in his eyebrows, and the whole person was full of spirit and radiant. Boom, dashin. Invisible wave of chi centered on him quickly exploded, impacting the surrounding area into a circle of dust. The strength has increased by 2 million caddies. He clenched his fist lightly, sensing the surging power in his body, and was overjoyed. The cave void realm was undoubtedly terrifying, directly increasing his physical strength from 8 million caddies to 10 million caddies. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Such a terrifying force is not covered, one punch. I am afraid that even the mountains can be bombarded and shattered. You know, ordinary cultivators at this level only have a strength of about 1 million caddies, far less than 10 million caddies. Suchonga's body possessed blood-red true chi, an 8-fold increase, and the flesh was sanctified, and under the layers of power, the strength of the flesh alone had already exceeded the ordinary cultivator's large cut, crushed. This is not to mention weapons and exercises. If it is paired with the dragon-slaying knife or the Big Dipper 7-star sword, and then superimposed on the sword technique subsidized by the system, killing the ordinary cave void realm is like playing. Immediately, he suppressed his breath and prepared to go out to see if Su Lianyue had washed the ground. Phew. At this moment, a figure escaped from Tiantai Peak. Suchonga's eyes froze. Who? Soon. The man came to the front, and when he saw that there was a third person in Luofing, the face of the person who came changed obviously, looking at Su Chonga, he said in his words, Yo, it turns out that Luofing is not two people, there is also a maid. Suchonga fixed his eyes, and saw that the person who came was Sikong too. I vaguely remember that he cut off his saint reincarnation before. What is he doing now? Could it be that Du Sihai sent it? Why, isn't it normal for me to go out to collect a maid? Suchonga said coldly. Sikong Tu shook his head and said, I'm just curious, I really don't understand that there is a woman who is willing to follow you as little transparent without cultivation. You are not allowed to blaspheme. Su Lianyue had already washed the ground, and when she heard someone mocking Gongzi here, she immediately raised her eyebrows and refuted angrily. Somehow, hearing Su Xianyue refuting Sikong Tu, Suchonga's heart was suddenly very refreshed. Su Lianyue itself is Sikong Tu's chance, but she was cut off by herself, which is equivalent to robbing someone else's woman, but this snatched woman is now angrily reprimanding Sikong Tu, which is, it's really cool. He was about to speak, but Su Lianyue immediately shouted angrily, I love to follow Gongzi, what does it matter to you? Saying that, she quickly walked behind Suchonga, pulled the corner of his clothes, and lowered her head shyly. Sikong Tu sneered, ignored her, and said, Shao transparent, I didn't come today for anything else, but I heard that you made an appointment with Huang Jiolong and Wang Wei? It's really funny, have you forgotten that you didn't cultivate? When it comes to the tournament, you can't be punched by them? So I'm curious, where do you have the confidence to dare to promise them? I was blown away. Sikong Tu continued, also, such a beautiful maid follows you, you are not afraid that when the time comes, you will be gone, and she will be abducted by Huang Jiolong? You are still too arrogant, don't think that with a master to protect you, you can do whatever you want. Huang Jiolong they have already stepped into the divine palace realm, not as powerful as you can imagine. Suchonga couldn't listen to it, and interrupted abruptly, there is a fart to release quickly. You're really proud. Si Kong Tu's face turned cold, and he said coldly, "Don't talk nonsense. Since you have made an appointment with them, then it is better to make an appointment with me. I also want to step in horizontally." Su Chang'e didn't want to think about it, and said directly, "Good. I promise." "You the Covenant. Don't rush to agree yet, I haven't finished yet." Si Kong Tu smiled lightly and said quite indifferently, "At that time, I hope you can completely recognize yourself, a little transparent who cannot cultivate, dare to agree to the covenant battle of the powerhouse of the divine palace realm. It is really unknowable. Do you know what my cultivation is?" Su Chang'e smiled and said, "I'm sorry, my cultivation is too low to perceive." Si Kong Tu smiled indifferently and said, "I am a peak powerhouse of the divine palace realm, only one step away from stepping into the next realm. The contrast between you and me is like the contrast between heaven and earth." "Well, the nonsense is over. I hope that when the time comes, in the ring, you must not ask my subordinates to show mercy, because I will refuse you." Fiercely. After that, he laughed up to the sky and left with his sword. Su Chang'e sneered at his back, "When you get to the tournament, don't ask me for mercy, because I will also reject you fiercely." The peak of the divine palace realm, is it very strong? He doesn't even know how many great realms he has surpassed the divine palace realm now. Immediately, he put on a mask, held 2 knives in his hand, and headed towards Tiantai Peak. The more Du Sihai thought about it, the more angry he became. He really couldn't swallow this breath, scanned the audience, and shouted angrily, "Let the lone wolf, silence, break the wave, and quickly get out of the customs." The words fell. Immediately, a dead man stepped forward and said in a trembling voice, "Lord, the 3 of them are now in the stage of divine accomplishment. They should not be disturbed. If they rush out of the customs, I am afraid that they will go crazy." The 3 of Lone Wolf, Silence, and Broken Wave have practiced a magic skill called Killing Cage. This is an extremely terrifying captivity secret technique. Once cast, an invisible transparent cage will appear in the void, which can instantly entrap a large number of cultivators in the cage, and then the cage will continue to shrink, crowding the trapped cultivators alive. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Since this secret technique is too terrifying, it takes 3 people to work together to perform it. But in the same way, the power will be stacked 3 times. Du Sihai was slaughtered by hatred, and said angrily, "Why, the words of this seed are not good, aren't they?" Plop. Suddenly, a dead warrior leader stepped forward, plopped down on his knees, and said, "Lord, isn't he a master? I don't believe how high he can be. You let his subordinates go down. If the subordinates can't take his head, they are willing to raise their heads to see him." This dead man is not an ordinary dead soldier, but commands an entire team of dead soldiers. He is tall, with a resolute face as tough as a mountain, and a broad chin, giving people a very rigid feeling. Du Sihai's subordinates were numerous, divided into many teams, and were governed by many commanders. "You?" Du Sihai glanced at him and said angrily, "Aren't you afraid of death?" "Subordinates are not afraid," the leader of the dead man said categorically. "As a leader, if I can't kill him, this position of leader is not appropriate. It's not a good one. You don't have to go. See who we kill today." Suddenly, a young voice came out of the hall. Du Sihai and many dead soldiers were shocked, and immediately turned their heads one after another. I saw a figure in white holding 2 knives, and striding over. "In addition, thank you for your tips yesterday. I see that a reader in the Background gave $10. Thank you for your support. Thank you. You are. A dead man was shocked, and his heart jumped to his throat in an instant. He couldn't sense the breath on this white-clothed figure, and his divine sense probed like a mud cow into the sea. He clearly knew that he could not perceive cultivation, which showed that the other party's cultivation far exceeded him. Shoo. He actually took the initiative to kill. Shoo. How dare he? Suddenly, a series of exclamations erupted at the scene. All the dead were stunned. The other party actually killed single-handedly? Is this Tima so awesome? Du Sihai's gloomy eyes rolled with the killing intent that rushed like the sea, and the other party didn't even hit himself. This was to hit him in the face of the lord of this peak? Who are you? Why protect that kid? Angry words drank loudly from his mouth. Who expected that Suchanga didn't even bring a bird to him under the mask? A face was directly pinned, looked at the dead man leader just now, and said coldly, "Since you are looking for death, then I will fulfill you." Ugh. He shot straight away. The left hand is the head, the right hand is the ghost king, the two knives are down, and the action is as fast as thunder. Sting. The air was shaken apart by the cut, and terrifying ripples appeared. Ha ha ha, you killed the door, but let me save trouble. The leader of the dead man laughed, and sharply took out a Xian iron épée, and pointed it at it. Click. Suchanga slashed at the heavy sword, and the heavy sword broke when it landed, and Mars shot out, and it was directly divided into two halves. Then, without waiting for the dead commander to react, the ghost monarch blade in. His right hand broke through the air and slashed at the dead warrior leader's neck with a thunderous momentum. The leader of the dead man only felt a cold neck, followed by another heat, and indescribable pain came. His head flew directly, and blood sprayed wildly. Boom. His headless corpse fell heavily to the ground, and he was killed. One breath. Less than a breath. The leader of the dead was beheaded. Boom. There was an uproar all around. Everyone was stunned, looking at Suchanga stunned, only feeling deep shock and panic. Oh my god, is this person a professional killer? The action is so sharp. What are you? Answer me. Du Sihai stared at the mask on Suchanga's face, and his heart was furious. Who I am, you don't need to know. You just need to know that provoking me is equivalent to opening your nightmare. Ugh. Suchanga slashed through again, and another dead soldier's head flew up. That head still retained consciousness before death, and his pupils showed endless horror, until his head smashed heavily on the ground. He didn't understand that he had been beheaded. Shoo. Everyone was horrified and hurriedly retreated backwards, opening a safe distance. Du Sihai was shocked and angry. The other party actually killed in his territory in front of him. Outrageous. But this person can kill the dead warrior leader under him in seconds with a single face, which needless to say is a master. It seems that Luofeng is really Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Suchanga's heart was overjoyed, and he laughed. Strange old man, aren't you going to kill Suchanga? If you have a kind, continue to send people now. As he spoke, he didn't move to kill Du Sihai. When he arrived just now, he found that with his own cultivation, he couldn't even sense Du Sihai's cultivation. It's easy to see why. But how could he be afraid? Fight psychological warfare, and that's it. Poof. With a wave of the severed knife, another dead man's head flew up. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Blood splattered Du Sihai's face. Seeing this scene, Du Sihai's lungs were about to explode. Feeling that the fire in my internal organs is burning more and more vigorously, and the more intense it is, I can't wait to immediately pounce on it now and kill this person. But he didn't dare to move. If the other party can kill single-handedly, he must be extremely strong. Otherwise it would never be so horizontal. Don't bet on it. Nor can you gamble. Once you lose the bet, the consequence is your own life. Poof. Another head flying high. Blood spilled all over the Soul Lantern Hall. Then the soul lamp of the Soul Lantern Hall was extinguished in a large area. This means that someone is frantically slaughtering the people of Tiantai. Peek. It's these dead men in front of you. These dead warriors were extremely strong in cultivation, but in front of Su Chang'e after his cultivation skyrocketed, he couldn't even do a trace of resistance. Soon, blood splattered on the ground, and human heads rolled down like worthless ants everywhere. Su Chang'e laughed, hearty slaughter. In the end, the clothes on his body were stained red with blood, and he almost became a bloody man. This massacre made him extremely happy. What I want is this crazy feeling of revenge. In the blink of an eye, the dead soldiers at the scene fell one after another, falling in a pool of blood, without life. Click. Du Sihai finally couldn't bear it, squeezed his fist fiercely, waved his hand violently, and a transmission hit the law enforcement hall. It's actually calling for foreign help. A fine light flashed in Su Chang'e's eyes. Sure enough, as expected, the law enforcement hall had already been bought by Du Sihai. As the transmission shot out, in just an instant, dozens of powerful figures arrived one after another and stepped into the entrance. The strong coercion instantly spread in all directions, and the air exploded like thunder. The oppressive space is in a fault line. What a villain, who dares to frantically slaughter the people of Tiantai. Peek, leave his life here. The leader was Bingyu, and as she spoke, she waved her hand, and a terrifying coercion fell, like a glorious heavenly power, which seemed to be able to suppress all things and sweep in all directions. The terrifying coercion instantly suppressed towards Su Chang'e. Du Sihai's heart was shocked, and he lost his voice. Ice Peak Lord, your cultivation is actually stronger than me. He originally thought that he was already strong enough, who expected that the law enforcement hall would be so terrifying as soon as he made a move. Just sensing that coercion, it made him faintly breathless. It is worthy of being the temple of law enforcement. However, Su Chang'e laughed, ha ha ha. How can I be afraid? He violently moved the shadow ghost step, and the figure appeared directly in the shadow of the gate, and then, calmly left. Leave only a dashing back. Far away, Du Sihai, Bingyu, and the others all heard a cheerful shout, want to keep me? I'm sorry, Xiaoye can come if he wants, and leave if he wants, it's not that you can stay if you want to. A flash of shock flashed in Bingyu's eyes. Someone can calmly leave from her hand. This is a difficult master. She sorted it out in an instant. Abominable. Du Sihai's angry eyes were angry, and he gritted his teeth and said, damn, I didn't expect the law enforcement hall to come, and it was useless. Bingyu's eyes were cold, and she said angrily, this person is extremely strong, should be an unworldly master, tonight has already beaten the grass and frightened the snake. In the future, Luofeng should be more cautious. If you want to assassinate, it is best not to attack Su Chang'e, to change the target, to attack Yu Qingyao. Du Sihai nodded, feeling reasonable. This person wears a mask and is dressed in white, similar to Su Chang'e's. dress, he should be Su Chunga's best friend in the outside world. If you want to continue to kill him, I am afraid it will not be as easy as before. But Yi Qingyao was left alone. Good. I'll mobilize my manpower and kill Yi Qingyao. Do. Sihai sent a voice out, and soon, the undercurrent of Tiantai Peak surged towards the 3 hidden forbidden places. Those 3 forbidden places are the retreats of the 3 people of Lone Wolf, Silence, and Broken Wave.